The harbor at 2 in the morning smells like diesel fuel, rotting fish, and broken dreams. I'm crouched in the engine compartment of my Grady White, pretending to fix an alternator that works perfectly fine, nursing a bourbon that tastes like regret. The city skyline glows across the water, all those office towers where important people make important decisions that ruin ordinary lives like mine. My phone buzzes against the fiberglass. Matt, my 20-year-old son, texting from college. Did Mom say you had to work late again? She's been weird all week. You okay? I'm not okay. Haven't been okay for months. But I type back, just finishing up some paperwork. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine. Everything's about as far from fine as a man can get without actually losing his mind completely. He understands the pressure I'm under, my wife said about her boss 3 days ago. You never do. I nodded and left for a business trip. What I actually did was book the hotel room next to theirs. The private investigator's report sits in my truck, 32 pages of time-stamped photographs and financial records that document 8 months of lies. Donnie Vance charges $200 a day plus expenses, but watching Gareth Whitmore answer that hotel door in nothing but a towel at midnight? That was worth every penny. My name is Warren Decker. I'm 44 years old, a mechanical engineer who designs HVAC systems for office buildings. Not glamorous work, but it pays well enough to keep a family comfortable in the suburbs. Or it did, until my wife decided comfort wasn't enough anymore. Allison Decker, formerly Allison Harper from the good side of town, is a junior partner at Whitmore, Kessler & Associates. She's brilliant, ambitious, and apparently willing to do whatever it takes to climb the corporate ladder, including her managing partner. The marina creaks around me, old wooden docks, shifting with the tide. A neon sign from Murphy's Tavern across the street flickers red and blue, casting shadows that dance across the water. This place suits my mood perfectly. Tired, weathered, holding together through habit more than strength. I've been coming here since the divorce papers arrived last week. Not to fish or work on the boat, just to think, to plan, to figure out how a 20-year marriage dissolves into legal documents and property division while you're sleeping in the same bed, eating at the same table, pretending everything's normal. The bourbon burns going down, but it's a clean burn, honest, unlike everything else in my life lately. 3 months ago, I noticed the changes. Late nights at the office became routine, weekend conferences multiplied, her phone developed a password I didn't know. When I asked about it, she said I was being paranoid and controlling. Gareth's been mentoring me through the partnership track, she explained over dinner one night, not quite meeting my eyes. It's a competitive process. I need to be available when opportunities arise. Opportunities. That's what she called them. I hired Donnie after finding a hotel receipt in her jacket pocket. The Marriott downtown, charged to her credit card on a Tuesday when she claimed to be at a client dinner. Donnie's a former cop who specializes in matrimonial investigations. Discreet, thorough, and completely without sentiment about the wreckage he documents. Your wife's been meeting Whitmore at the same hotel every month for 8 months, he told me in his office above a pawn shop on Federal Street. Same room, same time, same pattern. She pays with her corporate card. He reimburses the firm through his expense account. Very neat, very organized. What about his wife? Margaret Whitmore stays busy with charity work and prescription medication. I don't think she knows, but I don't think she'd care much if she did. Marriage of convenience, separate bedrooms, that whole arrangement. The photographs were professionally shot, time-stamped, and utterly damning. Allison entering the hotel lobby at 7:30. Whitmore arriving 10 minutes later. Room service delivering champagne and dinner for 2. Neither of them leaving until morning. You want my advice? Donnie asked, sliding the envelope across his desk. Take this to a lawyer, file for divorce, and move on with your life. Clean break, minimal drama. But I'm not interested in minimal drama. I'm interested in justice. The boat rocks gently as a late-night freight train rumbles past on the tracks behind the marina. The sound echoes off the water, lonely and distant, like everything else in my world lately. I finish the bourbon and climb out of the engine compartment. The city looks different from out here, less impressive somehow. All those lights represent people going about their lives, unaware that Warren Decker is planning something that will shake their comfortable assumptions about marriage, loyalty, and consequences. My truck starts on the first try, reliable as always. Unlike my wife. Unlike my marriage. Unlike anything else that used to matter. The drive home takes 15 minutes through empty streets. Our house sits on Maple Avenue in Riverside Heights, a development built in the 90s when we still believed in forever. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, attached garage, and a mortgage that'll be paid off in 8 years if everything goes according to plan. Nothing's going according to plan anymore. Allison's car isn't in the driveway. Another late night at the office, another mentoring session, another lie added to the collection. I park in my usual spot and sit for a moment, studying the house we bought together when Matt was 3 and Emily was born. The porch light's on, same as always. Motion sensor activated, welcoming me home to an empty house and a marriage that exists only on paper now. I grab Donnie's report from the passenger seat and head inside. The kitchen smells like the dinner I missed, something Italian with garlic and herbs. A plate waits in the refrigerator with a note. Heat it up when you get home. Love, A. Love. Right. I throw the note away and eat the lasagna cold, standing at the counter while reviewing the evidence that will end my marriage. 32 pages of documentation, cross-referenced with credit card statements, phone records, and witness testimony from hotel staff who've seen this routine play out month after month. Donnie's thorough. He's also expensive. But watching Whitmore's face when I knocked on that hotel door, the shock, the panic, the desperate scramble for clothes and dignity, that was priceless. Warren, he stammered, clutching his towel. This isn't what it looks like. It looks like you're sleeping with my wife in a hotel room she's paying for, I replied calmly. Is that not what it is? Allison appeared behind him, wrapped in a sheet, her face pale with terror. 20 years of marriage, and I'd never seen her look so small. How did you find us? She whispered. I'm an engineer, I told her. I solve problems by gathering data and analyzing patterns. You two have been very predictable. I left the photographs on their bed, a dozen 8x10 prints documenting their affair in vivid detail. Then I walked out while they were still scrambling for explanations that would never come. That was 3 days ago. Since then, we've maintained the pretense of normalcy. Good morning. How was your day? What's for dinner? Like actors in a play nobody wants to see, but the performance is ending soon. I finish the lasagna and rinse the plate, then head upstairs to our bedroom. The bed's made, pillows fluffed, everything perfect except for the marriage it represents. I change into jeans and a sweater, then drive back to the marina. The boat's waiting, patient as always. I've owned her for 10 years, bought her used from a guy who lost his job and needed quick cash. She's not pretty, but she's seaworthy and reliable. More than I can say for anything else in my life. The engine compartment holds more than tools and spare parts now. Hidden beneath a panel I modified last month is a waterproof case containing copies of every document Donnie provided, plus financial records I've been gathering on my own. Allison thinks I'm just a mechanical engineer who designs air conditioning systems. She doesn't know I also understand corporate finance, legal procedures, and the fine art of strategic planning. 20 years in the engineering field teaches you how to build things that last and tear down things that don't work anymore. My marriage doesn't work anymore. Time to tear it down. Thursday morning arrives gray and cold, with the kind of drizzle that makes everything look tired. I'm in my office by 7, reviewing blueprints for a downtown renovation project, when my phone rings. Warren Decker Engineering. Mr. Decker, this is Tara Sims from Whitmore, Kessler & Associates. I'm calling about your wife. Tara's the HR director at Allison's firm, a sharp woman in her late 30s who's always been friendly at company parties. Too friendly, maybe. The kind of person who remembers everyone's birthday and collects information like some people collect stamps. What about her? Could we meet for coffee? There are some things you should know about what's happening at the firm. Interesting. Very interesting. Murphy's Tavern, near the marina. 1 hour. Murphy's serves coffee that could strip paint and breakfast that'll either cure a hangover or create one. It's not the kind of place where lawyers typically conduct business, which makes it perfect for conversations that shouldn't happen. Tara's already there when I arrive, sitting in a corner booth with her back to the wall. She's dressed down, jeans and a sweater instead of her usual business attire, trying to blend in, or maybe trying to distance herself from whatever she's about to tell me. Thanks for coming, she says as I slide into the opposite seat. I wasn't sure you'd want to hear this. Try me. The waitress brings coffee without being asked. Murphy's operates on the assumption that everyone needs caffeine, and they're usually right. I add cream and wait for Tara to get to the point. There's going to be an internal investigation, she begins carefully. The managing partners received some photographs that raise questions about professional conduct. What kind of photographs? The kind that show Gareth Whitmore and Allison in situations that violate company policy regarding relationships between supervisors and subordinates. I sip my coffee and maintain what I hope is an appropriately shocked expression. Are you saying they're having an affair? I'm saying the evidence suggests improper conduct that could result in disciplinary action for both parties. Tara's being careful with her words, speaking like the HR professional she is. But her eyes tell a different story. She's angry about something, and it's not just professional misconduct. How long has this been going on? The photographs are dated over several months, but there have been rumors for longer than that. What kind of rumors? She leans forward, lowering her voice. Gareth has a history of this. There was an incident 5 years ago with a paralegal that got buried. Another situation 3 years ago with a client that never made it to the partner's attention. The firm has a pattern of protecting him because he brings in major accounts. And now? Now they can't ignore it anymore. The evidence is too explicit, too well documented. Someone did their homework. I meet her eyes across the table. Someone? Someone who knew exactly what they were looking for and how to find it. Someone who understands that timing matters in these situations. We sit in silence for a moment, the implications hanging between us like smoke from the kitchen. Tara knows I'm responsible for the photographs, but she's not saying so directly. Plausible deniability for both of us. What happens next? I ask. Gareth's been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Allison's been reassigned to a different department with no client contact. The partners are trying to contain the situation, but word's getting out. And their relationship? Officially, there is no relationship. Unofficially, I heard Gareth's wife filed for separation yesterday morning. Apparently she received copies of the same photographs. That's news to me. I didn't send anything to Margaret Whitmore, which means someone else is playing this game. Someone with access to the evidence and their own agenda. Tara, why are you telling me this? She stirs her coffee thoughtfully, choosing her words. Because you deserve to know what your wife's been doing, and because Gareth Whitmore has been getting away with this behavior for too long. You don't like him. I despise him. He's a predator who uses his position to manipulate women, and the firm enables him because he's profitable. Allison's not his first victim, just his most recent. Victim. Interesting choice of words. You think my wife's a victim? I think she made some poor choices, but I also think she was targeted by someone who knew exactly how to exploit her ambitions. The conversation's taking an unexpected turn. I came here expecting information about the investigation, but Tara's offering something more complex, a different perspective on my wife's betrayal. Tell me about the pattern, I say. Gareth identifies women who are ambitious but insecure, usually junior associates or paralegals who want to advance but feel overlooked. He offers mentorship, special attention, opportunities for advancement. The relationship develops gradually, late dinners, weekend conferences, private meetings. By the time they realize what's happening, they're emotionally invested and professionally compromised. And the firm knows about this? The partners know Gareth has a history of complicated relationships with female employees. They also know he bills more hours and brings in more revenue than anyone else in the firm. They choose to manage the situation rather than address it. How do they manage it? Transfers, promotions, settlements, non-disclosure agreements. Whatever it takes to keep things quiet and keep Gareth productive. I'm starting to understand why Tara wanted this meeting. She's not just sharing information, she's recruiting an ally in whatever campaign she's planning against Whitmore. What do you want from me? I want you to be prepared for what's coming. This investigation is going to get messy, and Allison's going to need support. Whatever she's done, she's still your wife and the mother of your children. Actually, she's filed for divorce. Tara's surprise seems genuine. When? Last week. I received the papers Monday morning. Before or after the photographs surfaced? Before. She processes this information, recalculating whatever strategy she's been developing. That changes things. How? If she filed before the investigation began, it suggests she knew this was coming. Either Gareth warned her, or she had her own reasons to expect trouble. We finish our coffee in relative silence, both of us thinking through the implications of what we've discussed. The rain's picked up outside, turning Murphy's windows into abstract paintings of streaming water and neon light. Tara, can I ask you something? Sure. How did those photographs get to the managing partners? She smiles for the first time since I arrived. Anonymous tip. Someone slipped an envelope under the senior partner's office door Monday night. Very professional presentation and typed cover letter, organized chronologically, cross-referenced with financial records. Financial records? Hotel expenses, restaurant charges, travel receipts. Someone had been tracking their activities for months. Someone thorough. Someone with access to corporate credit card statements and expense reports. We look at each other across the table, both understanding what's not being said. Tara has access to employee financial records through her HR position. She could have been monitoring Whitmore's activities for months, waiting for the right moment to act. Why now? I ask. Because Allison's partnership was coming up for review. If she'd been promoted based on her relationship with Gareth rather than her legal skills, it would have set a precedent that other women in the firm couldn't live with. Other women like you? Other women like me? I pay for the coffee and walk Tara to her car, a sensible Honda that fits her practical personality. The rain stopped, but the sky remains threatening. Warren, there's something else you should know. What's that? Gareth's not going to take this quietly. He's already hired a lawyer and started making calls to his contacts in the legal community. He's going to fight the investigation and try to shift blame onto Allison. How? He'll claim she initiated the relationship and used it to advance her career. He'll paint himself as the victim of a calculating woman who exploited his mentorship. Will that work? It might. Gareth has allies on the managing committee, and Allison's relatively new to the partnership track. If it comes down to credibility, he has advantages. Unless there's evidence to the contrary. Unless there's evidence to the contrary. She gets in her car and drives away, leaving me standing in Murphy's parking lot with more questions than answers. The investigation's moving faster than I expected, and there are more players involved than I realized. My phone buzzes with a text from Allison. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Right. Working late. I drive to the marina and spend the afternoon organizing my thoughts and evidence. Donnie's report is comprehensive, but it focuses on documenting the affair rather than understanding its context. Tara's information adds layers I hadn't considered: corporate politics, workplace dynamics, and the possibility that Allison's both perpetrator and victim in this situation. The sun's setting when my phone rings again. This time it's Matt, calling from college. Dad, what's going on? Emily says Mom's been crying all week, and there are lawyers calling the house. Time to start telling the truth, at least partially. Your mother and I are having some problems, son. We're probably going to separate for a while. Is it serious? Yeah, it's serious. Is there someone else? Smart kid. Takes after his old man. There are some things your mother needs to work out. I don't want you or Emily caught in the middle of this. Are you okay? I'm handling it. That's not what I asked? No, it's not. But it's the only answer I can give him right now. Friday evening, Allison comes home early for the first time in weeks. I'm in the kitchen, heating up Chinese takeout and reviewing financial statements when I hear her car in the driveway. She enters through the garage, moving quietly like she's hoping to avoid conversation. We need to talk, she says, setting her briefcase on the counter with unusual care. I figured we might. She looks exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair showing signs of stress. The confident attorney who left for work this morning has been replaced by someone who looks defeated. You know about the investigation. I know about a lot of things. She pours herself a glass of wine from the bottle we opened last weekend, back when we were still pretending to be married. Her hands shake slightly as she lifts it to her lips. How long have you known? About the affair? 3 months. About the hotel receipts, the expense account manipulation, and the pattern of lies? Longer than that. Why didn't you say anything? I was gathering information, making sure I understood the complete picture before taking action. She sits across from me at the kitchen table where we've shared thousands of meals over 20 years. The distance between us feels enormous now, unbridgeable. The photographs, she says quietly. That was you. That was me. How? Private investigator, former police officer named Donnie Vance. He's very good at his job. You had me followed. I had your affair documented. There's a difference. She drinks her wine and stares at the table, processing the implications of what I've told her. Outside, our neighbor's dog barks at something in the gathering darkness. What do you want? She asks finally. I want to understand why. 20 years of marriage, 2 children, a life we built together. What was worth throwing that away? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? She looks up at me, and for a moment I see the woman I married instead of the stranger she's become. Gareth offered me opportunities I couldn't get on my own. The partnership track is incredibly competitive, and I needed an advantage. So you provided services beyond legal research. It wasn't like that. What was it like? It was complicated. Complicated how? She finishes her wine and pours another glass, buying time to construct an explanation that might make sense to both of us. The firm has an informal hierarchy that goes beyond the organizational chart. Certain partners have influence over promotions, assignments, and advancement opportunities. Gareth's one of those partners. And sleeping with him was part of your career development plan? No, that developed over time. How much time? It started about a year ago. Late dinners, weekend conferences, professional mentorship that gradually became personal. When did it become physical? 8 months ago. The first hotel receipt I found. Yes. We sit in silence while I process this timeline. A year of emotional affair followed by 8 months of physical relationship. Longer than I suspected, more calculated than I hoped. Did you love him? I thought I did. And now? Now I realize I loved what he represented. Success, advancement, recognition. I loved the idea of being important enough to matter to someone like him. You mattered to me. You're my husband. You're supposed to love me. I'm supposed to trust you too. How did that work out? She starts crying then, quiet tears that don't change anything but make the conversation harder. I've seen her cry before, at movies, during arguments, when the children were hurt. But this is different. This is grief for something that can't be recovered. The divorce papers, I say. Why did you file before the investigation started? Gareth said it would be better if we weren't married when the story came out. Easier to manage the narrative if you weren't directly involved. Whose idea was that? His. And you agreed. I was scared. The photographs, the investigation, the possibility of losing my job, I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to file for divorce and try to protect your career. I was trying to protect our family from scandal. By destroying our family. She doesn't have an answer for that. Neither do I, really. We're past the point where explanations matter, into the territory where only consequences remain. What happens now? She asks. Now you deal with the investigation, the divorce proceedings, and whatever's left of your relationship with Gareth. He's not taking my calls. Smart man. His wife filed for separation, the firm's conducting an internal review, and he's probably got his own legal problems to worry about. You sent the photographs to Margaret? No, someone else did that. Who? I'm not sure, but you've made enemies at the firm, Allison. People who don't appreciate the way you've advanced your career. Like who? Like Tara Sims. Her face goes pale. Tara? She's been collecting information on Gareth for months, maybe years. You provided the perfect opportunity for her to take him down. She's my friend. She's an HR director who's been watching you violate company policy while she's required to enforce it. That creates conflicts. Allison processes this information, understanding for the first time that she's been playing a game with rules she didn't fully comprehend. The affair wasn't just about her and Gareth. It was about office politics, corporate power structures, and people with their own agendas. What about the children? Matt knows we're separating. Emily knows something's wrong, but not the details. How much you tell them is up to you. What are you going to tell them? The truth, eventually, that their mother made choices that ended our marriage. You're going to make me the villain. You are the villain, Allison. I didn't create that role for you. You auditioned for it, got the part, and performed it for 8 months. She starts crying harder, the kind of tears that come when someone realizes the full scope of what they've lost. I watch without sympathy, remembering all the nights she came home late with lies about client dinners and weekend conferences. I'm sorry, she says. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. Can't we try counseling? Work through this together? You filed for divorce, remember? On Gareth's advice to protect your career. I can withdraw the petition? You can, but I won't. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not interested in reconciliation. I'm interested in justice. Justice? You and Gareth thought you could manipulate the system, use your positions for personal gain, and face no consequences. You were wrong. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure everyone understands exactly what happened and who was responsible. Warren, please what? Please protect you from the consequences of your choices. Please help you rebuild the career you compromised. Please pretend this never happened. Please don't destroy me. I don't have to destroy you, Allison. You've already done that yourself. She leaves the kitchen then, retreating upstairs to pack whatever she'll need for the hotel room she'll probably call home for the next few months. I finish my dinner and review the financial documents spread across the table. Joint accounts, investment portfolios, retirement funds, college savings, 20 years of shared financial planning that needs to be untangled. The divorce will be expensive and complicated, but it'll also be final. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We should meet. There are things you need to know about your wife's situation. GW. Gareth Whitmore wants to talk. Interesting. I text back, Murphy's Tavern, tomorrow, 2 p.m. His response comes immediately. Somewhere more private. Murphy's or nowhere. Fine, 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon should be enlightening. Gareth's going to try to cut some kind of deal, shift blame, or manipulate the situation to his advantage. He doesn't know that I've been planning for this conversation since the night I knocked on his hotel door. Allison comes downstairs with a suitcase and her laptop bag. She's composed herself, put on makeup, and returned to the professional appearance that served her so well in the legal world. I'll be staying at the Hampton Inn until I find an apartment. Fine. I'll call the children tonight and explain what's happening. Keep it simple. They don't need all the details. What about you? What are you going to do? I'm going to finish what we started. We? You, me, Gareth, Tara, and everyone else who's been playing games with other people's lives. This story has an ending, and I'm going to make sure it's the right one. She leaves without saying goodbye, and I'm alone in the house we bought together when we still believed in forever. The silence feels different now, not empty, but clean, like the air after a storm passes. I spend the evening organizing evidence and planning tomorrow's conversation with Gareth. He's going to try to convince me that Allison seduced him, that he's as much a victim as I am, that we should work together to minimize the damage. He's going to be disappointed. Murphy's Tavern on Saturday afternoon attracts a different crowd than the weekday regulars. Families grabbing lunch after Little League games, couples sharing appetizers and conversation, people who still believe in simple pleasures and uncomplicated relationships. Gareth Whitmore looks out of place among them, sitting in the same corner booth where I met Tara yesterday. He's dressed casually, khakis and a polo shirt instead of his usual expensive suits, but he still carries himself like a man accustomed to being the most important person in any room. He's wrong about that today. Warren, thanks for coming, he says as I slide into the opposite seat. I know this situation is awkward for both of us. Awkward isn't the word I'd use. What word would you use? Consequences. The waitress brings coffee without being asked. Murphy's operates on the principle that everyone needs caffeine, and they're usually right. Gareth adds cream and sugar with the careful attention of someone buying time to organize his thoughts. I want you to know that what happened between Allison and me wasn't planned, he begins. It developed naturally over time through our professional relationship. 8 months of hotel receipts suggests it was pretty well organized. The physical relationship, yes, but the emotional connection came first. The emotional connection. We worked closely together on several major cases, late nights, weekend conferences, high-pressure situations that create bonds between people. Bonds. Professional relationships sometimes become personal, Warren. It happens in every workplace. Not in mine. You work with machines and blueprints. I work with people and emotions. The dynamics are different. I sip my coffee and study Gareth's face, looking for signs of the panic I saw at the hotel. He's recovered his composure, adopted the reasonable tone he probably uses with juries and clients, but his eyes give him away. He's scared. What do you want, Gareth? I want to minimize the damage this situation causes for everyone involved. Everyone? You, me, Allison, our families. The investigation's going to be painful for all of us. More painful for some than others. That depends on how we handle it. How do you suggest we handle it? He leans forward, shifting into negotiation mode. The firm's going to want this resolved quietly. Bad publicity hurts everyone, partners, associates, clients. If we can present a united front, show that we're handling this maturely, it'll be better for everyone. A united front? 2 men who got caught in an unfortunate situation and are dealing with it professionally. What kind of situation is that? A situation where an ambitious woman used her personal relationships to advance her career. There it is. The strategy Tara predicted. Shift blame to Allison, paint himself as the victim, minimize his responsibility for what happened. You're saying my wife seduced you. I'm saying she initiated a relationship that served her professional interests. And you were just an innocent victim of her manipulation. I was a mentor who allowed personal feelings to compromise professional judgment. Whose idea were the hotel meetings? That developed mutually. Whose credit card paid for them? Allison handled those arrangements. Because you told her to. Because it was convenient for her schedule. And the expense account reimbursements? Standard procedure for client entertainment. Is that what you called it? That's what it was, technically. I finish my coffee and signal the waitress for a refill. Gareth's building his defense carefully, constructing a narrative that minimizes his culpability while maximizing Allison's. It's probably the same strategy he'd use for a client facing similar charges. What do you want from me? I ask. I want you to understand that this situation is more complicated than it appears. How so? Allison's been having financial problems that you might not know about. What kind of problems? Credit card debt, personal loans, expenses that exceed her income. I handle our family finances, Gareth. We don't have debt problems. Not family debt. Personal debt that she's been hiding. He slides a folder across the table. Bank statements, loan applications, and credit reports I've never seen before. Documents showing that Allison's been borrowing money and opening accounts without my knowledge. Where did you get these? She asked me for financial advice several months ago. Said she'd made some poor investment decisions and needed help managing the consequences. What kind of investments? Day trading, cryptocurrency, some kind of online business that went bad. She was in over her head and desperate for a solution. I studied the documents, recognizing Allison's signature on loan applications totaling nearly $50,000. Money borrowed against her future partnership prospects, secured by promises of increased income that depended on her advancement at the firm. She needed your help to get promoted so she could pay off these debts. She needed mentorship to develop her legal skills. The financial situation was separate. But related. Everything's related when someone's under that kind of pressure. And the affair? Developed naturally from our professional relationship. Conveniently. These things happen, Warren. I wish they didn't, but they do. I close the folder and lean back in my seat, processing this new information. Allison's been living a double life, not just the affair, but a complete financial deception that puts our family's security at risk. Why are you showing me this? Because I think you deserve to understand what really happened. What really happened is that you took advantage of my wife's financial desperation to manipulate her into a relationship that served your interests. That's one interpretation. What's your interpretation? My interpretation is that two adults made choices that had unintended consequences. Unintended. I never meant for this to hurt you or your family. But you continued the relationship for 8 months. I tried to end it several times. The hotel receipts suggest otherwise. Allison was persistent. She said ending the relationship would hurt her career prospects. So you continued sleeping with her to protect her career. I continued providing mentorship and support during a difficult time. In hotel rooms. The relationship was complicated. The relationship was adultery. The relationship was two people trying to manage a difficult situation. I study Gareth's face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse or responsibility. What I see instead is a man who spent his career manipulating facts and emotions to serve his purposes, and who's applying those same skills to his personal crisis. What do you want from me? I ask again. I want your cooperation in resolving this situation quietly. What kind of cooperation? The divorce proceedings, the firm investigation, the publicity, all of that can be handled discreetly if we work together. Work together how? Present a united narrative that protects everyone's interests. Everyone's interests. Your family's privacy, Allison's career prospects, my professional reputation. And what do I get out of this arrangement? You get a clean divorce, fair financial settlement, and minimal publicity about your personal business. What do you get? I get to continue my career and support my family. And Allison gets? Allison gets a chance to rebuild her professional life without being destroyed by this scandal. I consider his proposal, understanding that he's offering me a deal that serves his interests more than mine. Keep quiet about the affair. Don't pursue additional evidence. Accept the narrative that minimizes his responsibility. What happens if I don't cooperate? Then the situation becomes much more complicated for everyone. Complicated how? Media attention, professional consequences, personal embarrassment for you and your children. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining the natural consequences of different choices. The natural consequences? This story can be a private family matter that gets resolved quietly, or it can become a public scandal that hurts everyone involved. Including you. Including all of us. I finish my coffee and stand up, having heard enough of Gareth's proposal. He's offering me a deal that requires me to protect the man who destroyed my marriage in exchange for avoiding public embarrassment. I'll consider your offer, I tell him. How long do you need? I'll let you know. Warren, I hope you'll make the right choice for your family. I intend to. I leave him sitting in the booth, probably planning his next move in whatever game he thinks we're playing. He doesn't understand that I'm not interested in deals or negotiations or quiet resolutions. I'm interested in justice. The drive home takes me past the marina, where my boat waits patiently for the next phase of whatever plan I'm developing. The evidence is organized, the players are identified, and the consequences are beginning to unfold. Gareth thinks he can manipulate me the same way he manipulated Allison. He's about to learn that engineers approach problems differently than lawyers. We don't negotiate with faulty systems, we redesign them. My phone buzzes with a text from Tara. How did your meeting go? Educational, I reply. Want to compare notes? Murphy's, 1 hour. See you there. Time to find out what other games are being played and who else has skin in this particular contest. The afternoon's getting more interesting by the hour. Tara's waiting in the parking lot when I return to Murphy's, leaning against her Honda and checking her phone. She's changed clothes since yesterday, jeans and a sweater replaced by running gear that suggests she's been trying to work off stress through exercise. Rough morning, I ask. Rough week. The investigation's moving faster than expected. How fast? Fast enough that Gareth's already hired a crisis management firm and started making calls to his contacts in the media. He's going public? He's preparing to go public if he can't control the narrative privately. We head inside and claim the same corner booth that's hosted 2 crucial conversations in the past 24 hours. The waitress recognizes me now, brings coffee without being asked, and pretends not to notice that I'm meeting with different people to discuss topics that probably shouldn't be discussed in public. What did Gareth want? Tara asks. He wanted to make a deal. Quiet resolution, shared narrative, minimal consequences for everyone involved. What kind of narrative? The kind where Allison's the manipulative seductress and he's the innocent victim who got caught in her web. Classic. Did you accept? I told him I'd consider it. But you won't. I won't. She smiles, the first genuine expression of satisfaction I've seen from her. Good, because I have a better offer. What kind of offer? The kind where Gareth faces real consequences for his behavior and the firm can't sweep this under the rug. I'm listening. Tara opens her purse and removes a tablet computer, which she places on the table between us. The screen shows a spreadsheet with dates, names, and financial figures that look familiar. What am I looking at? 5 years of Gareth's expense reports, cross-referenced with hotel bookings, restaurant charges, and travel receipts. You've been tracking him for 5 years? I've been documenting patterns of behavior that violate company policy and create liability for the firm. What kind of patterns? She scrolls through the data, highlighting entries that show regular payments to hotels, restaurants, and entertainment venues. The amounts are substantial, the frequency is consistent, and the pattern is clear. Gareth's been using his expense account to finance relationships with female employees for years. The firm's been reimbursing him for activities that violate harassment policies and create hostile work environments. How many women? At least 6 that I can document, probably more who were too scared or embarrassed to report anything. And the firm knew about this? The managing partners knew there were complaints. They chose to handle them through transfers, promotions, and settlements rather than addressing the underlying behavior. Why? Because Gareth bills more hours and brings in more revenue than anyone else. He's profitable enough that they're willing to overlook his personal conduct. Until now. The photographs you provided are explicit enough that they can't be ignored or explained away. I study the spreadsheet, understanding that Tara's been building a case against Gareth for years. Allison's affair wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern of predatory behavior that the firm enabled through willful blindness. What do you want from me? I want you to help me make sure this story gets told completely and accurately. How? By providing evidence that supports a broader narrative about systemic harassment and corporate cover-ups. What kind of evidence? Financial records, communication logs, witness testimony, everything that shows how Gareth operated and how the firm protected him. And in return? In return, you get justice for what happened to your family, and other women get protection from what happened to your wife. Other women like you. Other women like the paralegal who got transferred to avoid Gareth 5 years ago. Other women like the associate who left the firm rather than file a complaint 3 years ago. Other women like your wife who got manipulated into thinking that sleeping with her boss was the only way to advance her career. I consider Tara's proposal, understanding that she's offering me something more comprehensive than revenge. She's offering me the chance to expose a system that enabled Gareth's behavior and prevented accountability. What happens to Allison in this scenario? Allison faces consequences for her choices, but she also gets recognized as a victim of workplace harassment rather than just an adulterous wife. She won't see it that way. She might, eventually. Right now, she's too scared and embarrassed to think clearly. And Gareth? Gareth loses his job, his reputation, and his ability to victimize other women. And the firm? The firm faces scrutiny, potential lawsuits, and pressure to change policies that enable harassment. That's a lot of collateral damage. That's a lot of overdue accountability. We sit in silence while I process the scope of what Tara's proposing. This isn't just about my marriage anymore. It's about a pattern of behavior that's affected multiple women over multiple years. How do we do this? We coordinate our evidence, present a unified narrative, and make sure the story gets told by people who can't be ignored or silenced. What people? Journalists, investigators, regulatory agencies, people who specialize in exposing corporate misconduct. You have contacts? I have contacts. And you have evidence that corroborates everything I've been documenting. The photographs. The photographs, the financial records, the timeline of events, everything that shows how Gareth's system worked and how your wife got caught in it. When do we start? We've already started. The investigation's moving forward, Gareth's getting desperate, and the firm's trying to contain a situation that's already beyond their control. What's the timeline? Days, not weeks. Gareth's crisis management team is going to try to get ahead of this story, which means we need to make sure the right version gets told first. The right version. The complete version. Not just the affair, but the pattern. Not just your wife's choices, but the system that manipulated those choices. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at the marina tonight, 8 p.m. Come alone. A. Allison wants to meet, probably to discuss Gareth's offer, or to try negotiating her own deal, or to attempt some kind of reconciliation that serves her interests. Problem? Tara asks. My wife wants to meet tonight. Where? The marina. That's interesting. Why? Because Gareth's been asking questions about your boat. Apparently he thinks you might have additional evidence stored there. What kind of evidence? The kind that could be damaging if it surfaced during the investigation. I think about the waterproof case hidden in my boat's engine compartment, containing copies of every document Donnie provided, plus financial records I've been gathering independently. Evidence that could destroy both Gareth and Allison if it became public. Does he know what I have? He knows you're more prepared than he expected. The photographs were too professional, too well organized, too strategically timed to be the work of an angry husband acting on impulse. So he thinks I'm planning something. He knows you're planning something. The question is whether he can stop it. Can he? Not if we work together. I finish my coffee and check the time. 6 hours until my meeting with Allison. Enough time to prepare for whatever conversation she's planning and whatever agenda she's pursuing. Tara, if we do this, if we expose the whole system, what happens to the other women who were involved with Gareth? They get a chance to tell their stories without being dismissed or silenced. They get acknowledgement that what happened to them was wrong and wasn't their fault. And justice? And justice. Then let's do it. We shake hands across the table, sealing an alliance that will determine how this story ends and who faces consequences for the choices they've made. The game's bigger than I realized, the stakes are higher than I expected, and the ending's going to be more dramatic than anyone planned. Except maybe me. 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. The marina's nearly empty, except for a few die-hard fishermen and couples taking romantic walks along the docks. The air smells like salt water and diesel fuel, with undertones of fried food from Murphy's Tavern across the street. Allison's already there when I arrive, standing beside my boat with her arms wrapped around herself against the evening chill. She's dressed casually, jeans and a sweater instead of her usual professional attire, but she still looks out of place among the weathered docks and working boats. Thanks for coming, she says as I approach. What do you want, Allison? I want to talk about what happens next. What happens next is divorce proceedings, an investigation at your firm, and consequences for the choices you've made. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It's already that complicated. She follows me onto the boat, moving carefully on the unfamiliar deck. I've owned this Grady White for 10 years, but she's only been aboard a handful of times. Boats make her nervous. Too much water, too many things that can go wrong, too little control over the environment. Gareth told me about your meeting this afternoon, she says. What did he tell you? He told me you're considering his proposal for handling this situation quietly. I told him I'd consider it. And? And I've considered it. What did you decide? I decided his proposal serves his interests more than mine. She sits on the bench seat across from the helm, looking small and vulnerable in the growing darkness. The marina's security lights cast long shadows across the water, turning familiar surroundings into something more dramatic. Warren, I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore. Anger's an emotion, and this situation's moved beyond emotions into consequences. What kind of consequences? The kind where people face accountability for their actions, including me. Especially you. She's quiet for a moment, processing what I've told her. A seagull lands on the dock nearby, studies us with curious eyes, then flies away when it realizes we're not offering food. The investigation's going to destroy my career, she says. You destroyed your career when you decided to sleep with your boss. I made a mistake. You made a series of calculated decisions over 8 months. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. I was under pressure. Financial pressure that you created through secret borrowing and poor investment decisions. Her face goes pale. Gareth told you about the loans. He showed me the documents. $50,000 in debt that I knew nothing about. I was trying to handle it myself. By compromising our family's financial security and manipulating your boss into helping you get promoted. It wasn't manipulation. What would you call it? It was a relationship that developed naturally from our professional interactions. A relationship that conveniently served your financial needs. It wasn't about money. It was entirely about money. You needed Gareth's help to get promoted so you could pay off debts you'd hidden from your husband. I needed his mentorship to develop my legal skills. You needed his influence to advance your career faster than your skills warranted. She starts crying then, the same quiet tears I saw in our kitchen yesterday. But I'm not moved by them anymore. I understand now that they're part of her strategy, an attempt to generate sympathy and avoid accountability. What do you want from me? She asks. I want you to understand that your choices have consequences that extend beyond your career and our marriage. What do you mean? I mean, Gareth's been doing this for years, with multiple women, and the firm's been covering it up because he's profitable. That's not true. It's completely true. Tara's been documenting his behavior for 5 years. Tara? Your friend in HR, who's been watching you violate company policies while she's required to enforce them. She's the one who provided the photographs to the managing partners. You said you provided the photographs. I provided them to her. She provided them to the partners. Allison processes this information, understanding for the first time that she's been playing a game with more participants than she realized. The affair wasn't just between her and Gareth. It was part of a larger system involving corporate politics, workplace harassment, and people with their own agendas. What does Tara want? She wants Gareth held accountable for years of predatory behavior. And you're helping her. I'm helping justice get served. By destroying my life. By exposing a system that destroys women's lives. I'm not a victim, Warren. I made choices. You made choices within a system designed to exploit those choices. That doesn't excuse what I did. No, it doesn't, but it explains why you did it. We sit in silence while she considers the implications of what I've told her. The marina's quiet except for the gentle lapping of water against the hulls and the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. What happens now? She asks. Now the investigation proceeds, the evidence gets presented, and everyone faces consequences for their actions. What kind of consequences? Gareth loses his job and his reputation. The firm faces scrutiny and potential lawsuits. You face professional discipline and public embarrassment. And you? I get justice for what happened to my family. Is that enough? It's what's available. What about forgiveness? What about accountability? Can't we have both? Not anymore. You filed for divorce, remember? On Gareth's advice to protect your career. I can withdraw the petition. You can try, but I won't withdraw mine. You filed too? This morning, citing adultery and financial deception. Her face crumbles as she realizes that our marriage is ending regardless of what she wants or what deals she tries to negotiate. The divorce is proceeding, the investigation is moving forward, and the consequences are unfolding whether she cooperates or not. The children, she says, will adjust. Children are resilient when adults tell them the truth. What truth? That their mother made choices that ended their parents' marriage. You're going to make them hate me. I'm going to let them form their own opinions based on facts rather than lies. Warren, please. Please what? Please protect you from the consequences of your actions. Please help you rebuild the career you compromised. Please pretend this never happened. Please don't destroy me completely. I don't have to destroy you, Allison. You've already done that yourself. She stands up, steadying herself against the boat's gentle rocking. The conversation's over, and we both know it. There are no deals to be made, no negotiations to be conducted, no compromises that will change what's coming. I loved you, she says. I loved you too. That's what makes this so devastating. Past tense. Past tense. She climbs off the boat carefully, moving like someone who's lost her balance in more ways than one. I watch her walk back to her car, a figure diminished by the choices she's made and the consequences she's facing. My phone buzzes with a text from Tara. Everything ready for Monday? Everything's ready, I reply. Good. It's time to finish this. Monday morning, the story goes public. The investigation becomes official, the evidence gets presented, and everyone involved faces the consequences of their choices. Gareth's crisis management team won't be able to control the narrative. The firm won't be able to sweep the scandal under the rug, and Allison won't be able to negotiate her way out of accountability. Justice isn't always satisfying, but it's always necessary. And after 8 months of lies, manipulation, and betrayal, necessity is enough. I lock up the boat and drive home to an empty house that feels different now. Not lonely, but clean. Like the air after a storm passes, when everything's been washed and the sky's clear again. Tomorrow starts the final chapter of the story, and I'm ready to see how it ends. Monday morning doesn't arrive with thunder or headlines. It arrives quietly, like truth always does, soft enough to ignore, heavy enough to crush. By 9 a.m., Whitmore, Kessler, and Associates is in emergency session. By 10, Gareth Whitmore is no longer allowed in his own office. By noon, 3 journalists are already calling Tara. I sit in my car across the street from the firm, watching employees gather near the windows like witnesses to a slow-motion accident. I don't feel triumphant. I feel finished. Tara texts me. It's done. He's out. The partners are in damage control mode. They're throwing him under the bus to save the firm. I expected that. Another message follows. 2 other women came forward. That I didn't. For a long moment, I just stare at the steering wheel. Allison wasn't the only one. She was just the one who happened to be married to me. I reply, "What happens to her?" Tara waits before answering. She'll keep her license, but her partnership track is over. She'll probably leave the firm within 6 months. I imagine Allison in some smaller office, some quieter city, introducing herself to new colleagues who will never know the full story. A woman starting over with less than she once had, carrying a history she can't erase. Justice, it turns out, is not a guillotine. It's erosion. Gareth doesn't go quietly. He releases a statement claiming misunderstandings, emotional entanglements, blurred boundaries. He never says the word predator. He never says the word abuse. He never says the word power. But the evidence does. Expense reports, transfers, patterns, names. By Tuesday, his reputation is over. By Wednesday, his wife moves out. By Friday, no firm will return his calls. And by Sunday, he is just another man who thought he was untouchable. Allison calls me that night. I almost don't answer, but I do. I read the articles, she says. I figured you would. They make him look like a monster. He earned that. And me? They make you look human, I say. Flawed, weak, complicit. She exhales slowly. That's fair. There's a pause. I didn't realize how trapped I was, she says. You weren't trapped, I reply. You were choosing. Both can be true. Maybe. Warren, I lost everything. You didn't, I say. You lost the version of yourself you were pretending to be. Another pause. I don't hate you, she says. I know, I answer. I just don't love you anymore. That hurts her more than any accusation ever could. I hope you find peace, she whispers. I already have. And for the first time, it's not a lie. The divorce is finalized 3 months later. No courtroom drama, no shouting. Just signatures and silence. Matt comes home from college one weekend and helps me repaint the living room. Emily starts spending more time at my place than at her mother's. Life doesn't explode, it rearranges. I sell the house on Maple Avenue, I keep the boat, I stop drinking bourbon in the engine compartment and start fishing again. Not because I need to escape anymore, but because I want to breathe. One evening, months later, I'm back at the marina, watching the water reflect city lights, the same place where this story began. Tara sits beside me on the dock, shoes off, feet in the water. You okay? She asks. I'm lighter, I say. She smiles. That's what accountability does. It returns weight to the right people. Do you ever regret starting all this? She thinks. No, I regret that it took so long. We sit in silence. Not heavy silence. Honest silence. Later, alone on the boat, I open the waterproof case one last time. Photographs, reports, timelines, proof. I close it. Not because the truth no longer matters, but because it no longer owns me. People think revenge is about destruction. It isn't. It's about clarity. It's about seeing people as they truly are and choosing not to build your life around their lies anymore. Allison didn't destroy me. Gareth didn't destroy me. The marriage didn't destroy me. Believing in a version of reality that wasn't real did. As I start the engine and pull away from the dock, the marina lights blur behind me. Not because of tears, because I'm finally moving forward, and for the first time in a very